Yeah.
Lovely bride does that.
One, gonna call to order the Hyde Park Board of Commissioners meeting. We have a few public comments. First up, we have Cynthia McCarthy, and next up, Sherry Frost. Morning, Cynthia.
Wondering why the Burnett Woods Dog Park is still closed. I imagine those who actually wanted it are especially wondering, since the most beautiful Cincinnati weather is rapidly passing us by. Is it because you're being sued, since the advertised universally accessible dog park is inaccessible in its entirety? Is it because there continues to be water pooling on the decomposed granite and ruining its installation with algae and riblets? Is it because there's still mulch being carried across the sidewalk by water? Is it because there's a giant muddy patch? Is it because some of the newly installed sod is dying? Have you yet begun to rue your decision of rushing this ill-conceived project to fruition, blatantly stepping on all the environmentalists and neighbors and people with disabilities along the way? Have you considered the idea of removing the paltry 4-foot fence and leaving it as a pollinator garden? This week I visited the Crone Conservatory. I took photos of the posters at the Healing Garden, where person after person was quoted on the importance of green space. How ironic that you post that in the featured exhibit, yet pave natural green space for a project yet to be put to use. Purely performative, it seems. My son will not be able to use the new dog park, not because he's disabled, but because his dog will easily jump the 4-foot fence. It's only a matter of time the dog will jump and the dog will run amok in the woods or get killed or injured on one of the busy streets adjacent to Burnett Woods. Why on earth would you not have consulted with an actual dog park designer for this? I suppose it'll be easier for you now to blame it all on Joel. I wonder when or if you will ever take any personal responsibility for your irresponsible, greedy developer actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Sherry.
Morning.
Morning.
Here to advocate for Burnett Woods accessibility at the bandstand. We're in the planning stages, I see, of the renovations, which is an amazing, great thing to use the bandstand for a lot of different events. I wrote to you about the lack of handrail on the stairs. We've had two musicians fall down the stairs because there's no handrail. And I've told you before, my daughter can't go up and down the stairs without a handrail. We've lost two big tall trees, which were near the bandstand. So now that space is completely open. So before we replant the trees, can we talk about including a ramp to the bandstand so that everyone has access? Maybe, it's not a difficult design. Any engineer could do it. But that's what I wanted to put in front of you today. And I hope that you include that in the planning stages of the bandstand. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Next up, we have Jim Mears.
Morning. My issue is with Miles Edwards Park, small park in West Price Hill. There are some issues with MSD and then all combined sewer, combined stormwater and wastewater, which has been there for probably 100 years. At some point when the road, Fair Road, which I live across, but directly across from the park, Miles Edwards Park, combined sewers can sometimes leak sewage. Bad thing, needs to be repaired. But the combined sewer, which is stormwater and sewage, it is the only way for stormwater to get out of this ravine, which the ravine is approximately, say, 100 yards by 1,400 feet. It's a pretty big ravine. There are 6 streets that over the years, they've added storm drains to it, a minimum of 6 streets. They all drain into this ravine. It fills up rather quickly. There are pictures, I have pictures that he's aware of the situation also. But anyway, I'm just here to publicly speak about it. My concern is that when it rains, and it rains hard, all this water will fill up this ravine, which it has in the past. But the existing combined sewer lets the water drain. It may take days, sometimes it takes a week for this water to drain. If you plug up the drains, there'll be no place for the water to go. It'd be just like a bathtub. If you clogged up the drain and continued to take showers, eventually the bathtub will fill up and overflow and cause lots of damage. I'm not against, I think this was all started because they want to build a walking path in the park, up in the woods. I'm not trying to stop that. Everything's good, but we have to take care of the stormwater first.
Thank you,
So
sir.
that's really all. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And last but not least, we have Gary Stenger.
I just want to give you a picture of what he's talking about. I think picture's worth 1,000 words. When this happens, it's gonna do a lot of damage. It's gonna wash away their house, it's gonna wash away the street. And it's a matter of time. You can't, when they plug all these holes up, if you have a big rain, you got 6 streets coming in with their water. It's gonna go over the road, well, it's gonna go next to the road, and then it's gonna wash away the road. You know how water moves things. It's gonna move the blacktop, it's gonna go over the street into their house. It's gonna wash away their driveway, their house. It's a matter of time. You can't say, let's keep it open until we decide what we're gonna do. I mean, plug them up until we decide what we're gonna do, because if it rains one time, it's gonna do a lot of damage. And that's what he said. I just reiterate, it's gonna be, go ahead.
If I could ask a question, this has been, but they have been actively plugged or they're plugged with free and.
Plug them now, so I understand. There's people down there that have made a path, probably 15 foot wide. So these blocks down do that.
They're down there now.
So down there now, and everybody that's down there doing the work for this company realizes what's gonna happen.
Right.
And they say, well, we can't do nothing about it. Just, workers, it's their job. But it's gonna create a swamp. The water won't go nowhere. The kids playing around there, you've got a lot of issues,
Have you contacted MSD?
Please,
Have you guys called the
Yes.
sewer district?
yes,
And what has there been response to try to separate the
the
two?
park department wants to stop the sewage leaking into the park, which everybody agrees that's a bad thing. And so they're gonna close up these inlets. Well, it works both ways. Stormwater goes in, sewage.
I understand, but
And so they're gonna close them up and there will be no way for the water to escape.
Steve, but is there any discussion about separating the sewer line out of?
That's what needs to be done, but you can't stop the only drain up first and then fix it.
Okay, got it.
Can't wait to see what happens. And then if they plug it all up, it's gonna take one rain. That's all it's gonna take, one good rain.
Thank you both for that.
Thank you.
All right, we also want to make sure we acknowledge the public comments we received via email. So you want these back?
You can keep.
I'm gonna hang on to that.
Again, I want to make sure we acknowledge the public comments we received via email regarding Burning Woods and actually a book recommendation. So thank you for that. Nothing further, we'll go ahead and get to our agenda. I'm sure all of our commissioners got a chance to review our August meeting minutes.
So
Okay, a motion?
You moved, I will second.
Second, all right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The next up, see, we have information planning and design update. Jason?
Excellent. Well, I will start with something that's not on the agenda or not on the report, but just to respond to our friends from Fair Road. So as we know, there's been a lot of studying of soil quality throughout parks. Miles Edwards was one of the ones that was studied and had excessive E. coli or had E. coli in it. We discovered these giant windows that were in it, which also posed a safety hazard if a child were to crawl in them. Now, apparently they'd been there for a very long time, over 60 years, but they've been there for a long time. So we reached out to MSD about getting those taken care of. They moved quicker than I think anybody would have expected, and they're taking it very quickly. I think the concerns that again, our friends from Fair Road have brought up are totally valid. And we've been in contact with the stormwater management unit about possible repairs we can make to this. Jenny Mobley's been leading this. Our team's already had several conversations with them. We have a meeting with them next week. So I can't disagree or really comment on order of operations necessarily, but I totally understand what they're saying. But we're trying to move as quickly as we can to make sure that the worst case scenario that they fear does not come to pass. So we're on it.
But it is a parks project, not an MSD project that is happening presently?
No, the current one is an MSD project. So,
Okay.
we don't have control over that. But we are in contact with the stormwater management unit about how to deal with the stormwater that is on site and comes to the site. And we're moving as fast as we can for that.
This combination sport. Yeah, so they got, try to get these two to come. The years they've been button heads.
Yeah. Anyways, but
Have they ever?
this came to light, I think last Friday, maybe was the first time Jim called us. And so we already got a meeting scheduled for next week. We're moving as quickly as we can. So just want to make sure that, and I talked to them before the meeting, I just want to make sure that you guys know as well that like, we're on top of it and we're gonna, you may be voting on something soon. So, but we want to work with stormwater because, much of it is their responsibility as well. So. All right. So we've got a bunch of reports, but first I'll start with 2 action items. If you would bring up the exhibits, although the exhibits start on page 9. If you want to follow along. If I could actually go to page 11 first. In last winter and for several winters now and springs as well, we've seen stormwater come through the parking lot and come through onto Gilbert Avenue and onto Elsinore, right by WCPO. This is something that when we passed our capital budget recommendation to the city manager last year, we included, and I got a compliment, former Division of Planning Design Director Manager Joel Gross. He estimated we'd spend about $150,000 to fix this problem, and we're bringing you a $150,000 solution today. So very interesting. But we put aside some money to fix these Elsinore steps. As you can see on page 11, 12, and 13, those white lines are 3 different storm sewers that exist in that area. The building is WCPO, the little triangle off to the side that's gray is their parking lot, and then the black where you see all the white cars, that's a 20-foot retaining wall that has some stormwater seepage, but there's also stormwater down the steps. Those are currently just regular flat inlets, like you'd see a flat grate in any parking lot. And so quickly storm debris builds up on it. It can get several inches deep. Our East operations team, whenever there's a big storm, goes out and cleans them off. But it still can cause water to run over and then to escape. So what we're doing is we're adding 2, what our team's described as 4-window kind of pillbox inlets that will allow water to go in from all 4 sides and have a grate on top. And so hopefully it will take that debris a little bit better. In addition, we are having our stormwater contractor televise these 3 storm drains or storm sewers, like pipes, in order to see if there are any problems. I mean, they're 100 years old, but to see if there are any problems or any issues. And then we're also working again with our friends at Stormwater Management Unit to see if there are any other problems. One of the things they postulate is that there's an extremely high water table there. And so it just might be groundwater that is the problem. That isn't necessarily anybody's responsibility to get into the ground and intercept. It's part and parcel of building a retaining wall. Sometimes that's the problem, but we're checking it out. And so that is part 1 of the quote we have for you today. Part 2, if you go back to page 9, I believe in a previous meeting, we've discussed some washout that we've had at the steps behind Playhouse in the Park. If you go to page, we'll bounce around here. If you go to page 13, 19, you can see that big void. That is probably 18 inches at the top and 2 feet at the bottom of land that it's been getting softened up for years and it just all washed out. And then you can see on the following pages how it washed into the street. This was early August. Our team was out there that day with a piece of equipment to clean up all that dirt and get it out of the way and get the sidewalk back open. But that's directly related to water that is pooling on the top of the second story of the Place in the Park garage and then shooting over the kind of the entrance to the sidewalk of the Mount Adams Recreation Area and working its way down that hill in a lot of different ways. You go back to the exhibit on page 9. You can see in the top left corner, you see the size of that drain. That drain is no more than 6 inches for that whole parking lot. Now, there are 3 of those drains. That's the only drain they have there. And so we're trying to work with our friends at Place in the Park to maybe expand that or maybe take in a little bit more stormwater there, or at least keep it nice and clear. But to the bottom part of the parking lot, just below that bubble cloud, is where the path is, and you can see the walkway, and it's just busting out of there. So a couple different things you can see on the upper right-hand corner. You can see starting from left to right, the void against the wall is the first picture. The second picture is looking at it from the top. The third picture is the sidewalk and some movement on the sidewalk that's happened because of erosion. And then the fourth picture going clockwise, you can see that hole underneath the sidewalk. Right? There's just a void where there's like 6 inches of space under that sidewalk underneath the concrete that the water's just voided out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do a bunch of things. One, we're gonna put a catch basin just south of that sidewalk, or just south of the exit from the parking lot where all that water is rushing out. So we're gonna catch that and then put 12 foot of new pipe in to connect it to an existing inlet that will also kind of reset, because the water's missing it. Basically, it's eroded around it. So it's higher than the water is. The water doesn't even make it to it because it's taken all the dirt away around it. And then we're going to put riprap underneath the sidewalk to make sure that's supported. Then we're also going to fill in riprap along that wall to shore that up and make sure that's all good.
Okay, would you please define for me what riprap is?
I can. And in fact, if you stand up, riprap is right out this window. Oh, it's blocked by the cars. Or no, it's over there. It's big rocks, right? It's big rocks that like stops, basically like it's kind of up past the do not enter sign up there. You can see near that storm drain.
Okay, got it.
Right? And it's big rocks that like basically prevent erosion by holding back the land around it. So it allows the water to kind of settle in there, and it slows things down from getting into the inlet.
Big enough to not get washed away by water typically, and it's jagged edge, so it sticks together pretty well.
It's the kind of thing that once you start to worry about stormwater, you start to see it everywhere in parks, right? And it's a solution that we have in a lot of different ways. In fact, if we skip a little bit later to a project we've completed on page Pictures are so big, I don't have the pages, but it is
Page 33.
In front of page 33, that is riprap. And so you can see that's a new storm drain we put in there. That is actually one of these 4-window pillbox drains that I'm talking about. But notice you can't see the pillboxes in there because they're all underneath the riprap. So the water will kind of slowly come down, go into the sides of that drain, right, through the riprap. And then if it gets really bad and really floods, there's the drain on top, which then allows all of it to go in. So this is, we're gonna be using some of our new railroad trust dollars. This is the definition of the kind of deferred maintenance that will shore up these assets for generations to come, will prevent the various stormwater issues that we have. And so we're looking for projects like this throughout the system, but this is a good one in Eden Park that will both deal with the stormwater better, protect the sidewalk better and the hillside better at Eden, by Place in the Park. And then along Elsinore will improve our ability to deal with stormwater down those steps, which should help the steps out, which still could use a little bit of help. And you might see a future project for that. And then also we're going to dig into some of these old clay storm drains from 100 years ago and see what kind of issues there may be there. And if we need to do any further investigations or projects.
It's tough growing old.
And our park system is quite old.
Distinguished.
It's distinguished. Well, we're giving it a bit of a facelift to prolong it for generations to come. So that is the first project. It is for both projects, it is a total of $151,800. We respectfully request approval of that project to Rack and Beller Excavating. They are our stormwater contractor. We have them under contract, so we don't have to go through some of the traditional procurement bidding processes, we're just allowed to go to them to do these kind of fixes because these fixes are often emergencies and happen quickly. That's why we have basically have them on retainer. And then if you look at page, you need a breakdown of the specifics of the work.
There's a contract.
You can look at page 16 and 17, which has it broken out. And then page 18 has the two different prices. So it's $92,400 for the Elsinore Gilbert Avenue project. And then it's $59,400 for the Playhouse in the Park project, for a grand total of $151,800. Not too bad from a $150,000 estimate back in November.
Right. Yeah, you do. Okay, so.
Motion.
Yeah, can I get a motion to approve? So move. That second?
Second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right,
So timeline on this?
He'll get started with Rack and Ballard, and then it's just a matter of getting a schedule. I would imagine it's done within the next 2 months. Just to go ahead and talk about the picture that I showed you to show you riprap, that is Cliff Drive. Cliff Drive, I think, was under 50,000, so I don't think you guys had to approve that one. Cliff Drive is the road that goes up behind Crone Conservatory to look up there, where there were some real serious erosion issues. We've got some pothole issues up there too. But the erosion issues were really bad and had some really bad stormwater problems that was causing some problems behind the Melanin Arch, which is kind of that big historic arch just past it, that Cliff Road goes over. That, if you'll recall, the Department of Transportation and Engineering is doing a project to fix up Victory Parkway, Eden Park Drive, up all the way up to that McDonald's. So we wanted to do that in advance to make sure we started to take that problem away so that it wasn't making it worse. But that riprap project was probably initiated 2 months ago over the midsummer, and it's done and complete. So it just is at this point, it's just a matter of fitting into their schedule, getting it approved. There still is some paperwork that needs to be done to approve this purchase order and all that stuff, but it'll start moving ahead right away.
All right.
So the second project is Mount Airy Forest drainage repairs. This project is here. This project is $146,600. We're again asking for a 10% contingency or $10,000 contingency to be held, kind of basically pre-approved, but not committed to the contract. If you look at page 22, this is 7 different projects that we're going to do around the Mount Airy Arboretum. So if you're looking at page 22, which is on the screen, I'm going to make sure everybody gets there. So the black building in the lower right-hand corner is a service garage we have out at our Mount Airy West operation, or our West Operations Center at Mount Airy. And then this is the lake at the Arboretum, and that's Arboretum Drive that kind of hooks on around to the Arboretum. Along the top, you can see a line that is a fence that is from an apartment complex that is above us. Immediately in the top right-hand corner, you can see that fence at the top of that picture. And then where that polygon is, that is basically a cliff. Now, it's got a lot of vegetation on it, but it is a cliff that is eroding constantly with water that flows over the side of their stormwater retention. They have a similar riprap system with a pillbox drain on their side that collects most of their stormwater. But during these big storms, it still escapes and comes over onto our side. We worked with buildings and inspections to make sure that all of their stuff was in compliance, and it was according to them. So we've got a set of projects that we're working on to fix this up. So there's that polygon, then below it, there's the bubble cloud. That bubble cloud's actually a storm drain. As you can see, that storm drain's got basically earth all around it. It has to be dug out, but it is sunken. So we're going to take that, reset it with riprap around it, kind of like the picture you just saw. So that will reset that and get that in a good spot. We'll also do some regrading. And then if you look at C and F, which are on either corner of the bottom, those are 2 areas that are getting channelized by water coming through and cutting through. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add stormwater or riprap to those in order to prevent the erosion that's happening and the movement of the debris, or not debris, but like the natural debris, leaves and stuff like that. And instead, we're going to add riprap in that's going to then shore up those 2 and kind of create a natural channel to accept that water and lead it to the storm drain properly. Similar F on the other side of in the lower right-hand corner, we're going to basically regrade that to create a positive drainage to the inlet. Currently, the drainage doesn't, some of it goes to the road and some of it goes to the inlet. We're going to kind of regrade it so it all goes properly to the inlet. The big problem here is there's the erosion and some of the damage that's happening that way, but there's also the road floods out during extreme rain events. And so what we want to do is capture as much of the water on that side of the road as we can in order to keep it from coming over, because it gets clogged, it then comes over, and then you've got this kind of bad situation. But if we can clean that side of the road, then we'll be in a really good spot. B, which is middle side of the right-hand side, is the other side of the road. So you can see a little bit of water there that's come over the road and kind of stopped at the grass, but the water seeps through there. And so if you're standing there, you can see a little bit of an erosion happening within the grass. The grass hides it well. And then that goes down to a storm structure and some piping that's all confusing. We don't know where it's all coming from. So we're going to get some of that televised and look where it's at. And then that drains directly into the lake. But we don't know that everything's getting into there right. And there's been a lot of erosion around it. It's the same situation where if the water's not moving properly, it skips the man-made structure, the concrete structure, and then it erodes around that structure. So we get all that reset and get it so it goes into the lake properly. And then, because the lake is the lake is a dammed lake that's meant to absorb that and deal with all this properly. E and D. E is a hillside of brush that also has some stormwater. The stormwater that comes out of our parking lot runs down that hill, has some stormwater infrastructure in it. That where E is at, from where our building is down to the road, is a pretty steep hill. But it's got a ton of honeysuckle on it. So we're going to clear and grub all that honeysuckle out, which will expose any stormwater infrastructure in there. Now we might have to come back and do an additional project to clean that up or to put some structures in there. But we're also thinking about, with that entire hill, perhaps coming back and putting more of a natural retention in there, maybe some prairie grass or some other sort of like rain garden, to start to slow some of that water down and retain it on site rather than just a mowed hillside, right? But first we got to clean that out, find where the storm infrastructure is, and kind of get the lay of the land. And then lastly is D. D is on the next page. D is, I apologize. D is over, D is not on the next page. D is just over by the lake, on the other side of the lake. There is see it in the middle, bottom middle. Those trees on the right are up a little hillside, but water is collecting behind it and creating a trench. So it's really hard to see there, but there's like an 8 to 10 inch cliff from that little hill that those trees are on the right. It's getting channelized. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put riprap in there, shore that up, and protect those trees for a long time to come. And then lastly, a little bit further down the road, you can see the lake kind of at the top of the picture on page 23. But a little bit further down, right at that parking lot there, there's another channelization where it comes off the road goes up ever so slightly, but instead of going through the parking lot, it gets caught there and then it goes into the woods where there is some storm drainage. We're going to put in what's called a French drain, which is basically where you dig out kind of a little channel, you add in gravel on the bottom, you add a perforated drain pipe on top of it, more gravel, and then you put dirt and grass back. And so it allows the water to get in it. And then once it gets in it, it shoots it right to where it needs to go and keeps the land in a good spot. So all told, 7 different projects for the low price of $146,400. But again, just another really good project that's getting a ton done. $146,600. It's getting a lot of great things done to shore up Mount Airy for generations to come.
All right.
Happy to continue my bootleg version of education on stormwater projects.
It's great education.
I'm learning as I go, but it's been a lot of fun.
All right, so I get a motion for in a second. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Let's see, next up, we have our monthly finance.
Nope, we still got a couple other projects. I'm just going to update you on a couple other things in the construction world. The dog park is not open yet, but it is not open because we still need to build out our curb cuts. We're fully committed to making this as accessible as we can make it as quickly as we can. And so we've got that scheduled for next 2 weeks from now. Those will be coming in. And then we anticipate once the curb cuts and crosswalk and all the signage is added, for those. We anticipate opening the dog park shortly thereafter. So sometime in October, it'll be open. We're not in a rush to open it. We want to open it and make it right. And so it's coming along and it will be completed soon. Lot 23, $5 million project, well underway. You go down Marion Way, you can see where they've already started to do the demolition and get going on the prep and the work to get the donor wall, which is the first component of that complete. I had a great meeting down there this week with the county and with Commissioner Alicia Reese to talk about integrating kind of these improvements we're doing with the Black Music Walk of Fame. Really great meeting, and everything's getting coordinated and working really well with that. The Mount Airy Area 23 bike skills course. Bike skills course is complete. Our team did a walkthrough. Everything looks great there. We have ordered the signage package. We expect those in a week or so, and then we will get those installed. These are the signs. So you can see at the top, we've got kind of our kiosk sign. On one side, there is kind of, this is where the skills course is in Mount Airy. And on the other side, there is, this is what the skills course is. This kiosk sign will go kind of right at the entrance loop. We then have below that, we've got the Mount Airy Bike Skills Course kind of like location name sign. That will go out by the road so that as you're driving through, you'll be like, oh, got to turn here if I want to go mountain bike. Next to that, we've got 2 no bikes on the hiking trail signs. Obviously, the trails in Mount Airy are not multi-use trails. They are trails for hikers. And so we want to make sure that we're very clear about that and keep those separate. The last thing we want is to have conflicts between hikers and bikers. And then the last, there's a close up of the sign. If you go back up again, there's one more. And then lastly, there is kind of like a smaller version of the kiosk sign or the above, which will go near the comfort station. And so we'll have a bunch of different signs all installed. That should be installed in a couple of weeks. We are working with Cora in the mayor's office to get a, and we're also going to have some one-way trail signs because the loop trail is one direction. You don't want as people, it's not big enough to pass. It is, I think 6 feet wide, which is good for all adaptive cycling, which was really important to us, but it's not wide enough to go both ways. So people will do what they do, but we want to at least tell them what way to go. And so those signs will be more like yard signs that we'll put out along the course to try to keep people going in the right path, like NASCAR, I guess, right? You always want to go in the same direction. Anyways, we're working to schedule an opening date, and we will be, as soon as we've got a date on the calendar, we will let you guys know, and hopefully you can all be there to cut the ribbon and open this great new amenity. So
Did you ride it?
I have not ridden it yet. But several of our team members have, and so we got some people out practicing. I know Kate is volunteered to be one of the early testers of the bike skills course. Exciting stuff. The Alt Park Playground. So you never know what you get into when you are doing a parks project. This is one where, as we went to demolish the existing playground, which you don't necessarily pay attention to, but playgrounds have like 1 million poles. So each one of those poles has a concrete footer. That concrete footer has tree roots all around it. And so rather than just yank them out and see what happens, our team worked, our Division of Natural Resources worked with East Operations, worked with Planning Design to really carefully and thoughtfully map out how to do this demolition. We use something called an air spade, which is, I'm guessing at this, but it seems to me like it's a little bit of like a power washer, but with just air to like expose the roots. And then for the small roots, they can chop them off. For the bigger roots, they can kind of move them out of the way in order to get these things out as carefully as possible. That's all been completed, all the demolition's done. Now we're looking at, before you just have, here's the site, we'll put one of these here, one of these here, one of these here, like big Lego pieces. But now we are, well, here's where the roots are. So what if we put all of the pieces here? Can we get these in without damaging the trees? One of the great things about the Alt Park Playground is it has 2 massive trees, provide a lot of shade. There's an additional tree that's just outside of the playground perimeter, but also has roots that come into it. So our teams are working really well together. Planning Design has a working session with the playground vendor next week in order to kind of like, well, if we moved this just a bit, what if we moved this over here? And so we're getting that finalized, put a little bit of a delay on it, but we're still working hard to make it great. And that should be done by the end of the year. Everybody's Treehouse construction kicks off on October 20th. If all goes well, that should be which should be finished by the end of the year. There's some closeout stuff that'll happen afterwards, similar to what we're doing with the dog park now, but major construction should be done by Christmas time. And so that's a pretty fun one. And then it should be ready to go. all stamps of approval for springtime in Mount Airy. So we're really excited to bring that accessible gym back online for everybody. The Sinton campus. So full steam ahead on that. We've been working a lot with KCF and with our internal teams to kind of finalize everything they need for that. We've got a meeting on Monday with the planning design team to kind of finalize all of our comments and get them to KCF. We then have a meeting. KCF is the architecture firm. We have a meeting with KCF then the following week where we will kind of communicate all those, talk them all through, kind of narrowing down on some final choices to try to control some costs as best we can. But again, as we've talked about, this is going to be an expensive project. It's going to be kind of a full renovation of East operations. We're also going to move our facilities team there, which involves building a new working garage for them, and then of course biochar. So all told, we're looking at probably a $6 million project or so. We will see. But we've identified where much of those resources can come. We've had some conversations with the administration and with city council about how to kind of close that final gap. And so we're very excited for that one. If everything goes great, I expect, we'll kind of be moving towards getting construction drawings in the first quarter of next year, and then we'll start to bid it out and start to move towards construction. So super exciting though, the biochar equipment gets delivered next week. And so we're very excited to get that delivered. That'll be stored on site. It is very heavy. And so we'll be moving it with a giant crane, but we will get you some details once we know about that in case you want to come by and see that project. Some of us have shorter walks than others, but it'll be getting delivered next week. So that's really exciting. It's becoming a reality.
All right.
The Sawyer Point Playground had a kickoff meeting with Midstates and Earthscapes a week or 2 weeks ago before NRPA. I had another call with them yesterday. It does look like in order to build the project we want to build and get the community input we want to get, which is of course super important to this project, we won't be able to get it done next year. It'll probably be a spring 27 project. We're looking at 4 to 5 months of design, and that includes allowing some week or two long windows within there to get community feedback at the various stages, which is one of the things that slows it down a bit. But then once we figure out what we want, we then have to collect up all the money for it. This is one where we don't have a budget for it because we're starting from scratch. We've got about $500,000 set aside between insurance and money that the administration and council gave us in the budget. And then we're identifying other sources. We've had several meetings with our friends at the foundation that are going to go out and shake the various money trees of the city, which is another part of the community engagement we want to do, is to make sure we're getting folks excited about it. Hopefully folks that are interested in being contributors for it. But that's moving full speed ahead, and we're really excited about that. Additionally, if anybody made it down to Oktoberfest, we took possession back of that land that was all part of the bridge project right at the beginning of September. We had our first kind of event that needed that space, the Buddy Walk, September 6th. So we asked them if they could be done by that. That's all cleared out, and they left us kind of a war zone of a construction site. And so Lou Sand and his team at the waterfront did a fantastic job. They brought in several tons of crushed limestone to kind of regrade it and kind of turn it into a little bit of a staging area. And then also brought in a bunch of mulch and created kind of a picnic overlook area at the southwest corner to kind of look into the PNG stage. If you were down for Oktoberfest, they were doing a lot of beer keg distribution from there. That was kind of seemed to be the key site there, but it'll be, kind of really effective as like a holding zone and an operational zone for us for the next year or so. And then as we figure out what to do next with it, we'll figure out what the future holds for it. The committee that is reviewing the proposals for the landscape architect, I believe, is close to a decision. We can be bringing you a contract with the landscape architect for this project at the it's very exciting. If you recall, the landscape architect is going to help us with 3 major things, and then be our kind of architect of record for the project. They're going to help make sure the playground fits in with the surrounding area and kind of fits with all of the pathways and stuff, and then kind of review any special permits we need or the special inspections. They'll be kind of our eyes and ears for that. They will then help us do an accessibility review of this 35-year-old park in general to make sure that all of the paths from the parking to the site are good to go, and including kind of making a pathway in the middle that will come on the west side of volleyball and enter the playground and kind of enter the trail system right there at the PNG kind of music area. And then lastly, they'll help lead us through a community design process where we will come up with at least the concept of what do we want to do with this stage? Do we want to leave it as a beer keg facilitation area, or do we want to come up with something else for it? Picnic area, a event space, shelter area, storage, putt-putt, skate park, all kinds of things could go in that area. And we want to get a lot of community feedback to see what the best option is for it. And then they'll help us kind of work through a couple of designs. So that's moving forward. Lots of exciting stuff happening at Sawyer Point. California Woods, we've got a meeting coming up in early October with the contractor to review all of the recommendations that they've made for improving the stormwater there as well. As it comes through the woods, that's on a big valley. So there's a lot of erosion that's happening there, and we want to kind of stop that as best we can. Some of it's kind of obvious. There's like a spillway that's not great. They want to recommend getting rid of. There's some areas they just want to shore up with some riprap and other stuff. There's a couple of inlets they want to reset, or some other areas. But then as you kind of come down and you get ready to head over the road, there's a big area where there's a tunnel under the road. And currently there's a ton of weird erosion going there. So one of their recommendations was to create kind of a flooding zone almost. And we were really worried that it was going to take out a bunch of big trees there. And so we were like, this just isn't going to work. I mean, California Woods is trees, right? So we all put on our muddy boots and went down there, and about 6 or 7 of us tromped around down there and realized there's actually more space down there than you think. It's just currently like riverbanks and weird things. And we think that we can potentially explore doing this with only having to lose maybe 1 or 2, not even giant trees. And so we're now weighing that. What is the benefit for 100 years from now versus the benefit from now versus if we don't do anything, those trees are getting eroded around anyways and are eventually going to fall. So we're kind of balancing all of that stuff. And that's the phase we're in with California Woods, but really exciting project, and a project that we think is going to be eligible for a lot of really big grants to help us do it right. So really fun. And then the last one I'll mention is Glenway Park. We are working to get our architect underway with that under contract to design the accessible pathway. And we're working with, again, our friends at the foundation to start to, once we get them underway and get them designing that accessible pathway, next up we'll be doing the RFP to start to get a playground vendor on board so that we can start to design the playground with them kind of concurrently, or maybe, I guess that design will probably kick off right after we finish designing the Sawyer Point playground. So it's going to be lots of playground talk for us, I guess forever, but these are the next 2 up. So fun stuff. And then below you can see a lot of kind of smaller repairs that we did. The geologic timeline has been improved with funding from our friends at the Board of Visitors. That includes adding 3 new lights in there, really fancy lights. They kind of blend in, but provides a lot of light behind the PNG stage. Cliff Storm Sewer project, which I showed you a little prematurely in order to give a riprap illustration. That shows you kind of where it's at. Cliff Drive goes from the upper left hand to the lower right hand over top of Eden Park Drive. And that's where you can see where that erosion was happening. And then that red is where all of that riprap is. And it goes to that new purple, which is the dot of where the inlet is. So that project's complete. We've built some storage bins out at Deal Road and Warder Nursery. We're still working on getting the septic system repaired at Mount Airy Arboretum. We're working on a little $7,000 repair to our roof project that we did 2 years ago, but now it's still having some some issues. And then we're also working on putting in some gates at Mount Echo, Bellevue, Fairview, and Mount Storm that our friends at the Cincinnati Police Department are going to close and open for us when the park closes. So that should really help with overnight usage of those parks.
Mount Echo, Bellevue,
Fairview, and Mount Storm. So Mount Echo's getting 4 gates. Bellevue will get 1, Fairview will get 2, and Mount Storm will get 1. So the police will go in at 11 o'clock when it closes, encourage everyone to make their exits, and then they'll lock it for us, and they'll come back in the morning when the park opens and reopen it for us. So great partnership to improve public safety, and gates aren't all that expensive. So really excited to do that. That is the plan design report.
Great.
Now we're on to our finance.
There we go.
Morning.
All right, so as I've been listening to Jason's report, and Joel's report over the past several months, I have all these really pretty pictures of all these activities, and you just can't take pictures of numbers. They're just not that attractive. And I've been trying to figure out, like, how do I best describe what it is that we do, other than just accounting for in parks. And really a lot of what I've been working on, team has been working on over the past, well, since I got here really is, if you think about a stage production, there are many months ahead of the production where you're painting the set and building the set and doing costume design and all of that, right? And that's kind of where I feel like we're at right now with our finance. We're like building all of this stuff to roll out, like, what does parks finance look like for parks now and into the future? And we have a really solid foundation, as you know, right? And that foundation is presented to you every month in this financial report, and it's got a lot of numbers for fund balances and revenues and expenses, tracking on where we are, year-to-date spend and so forth. And that's all really great information. What I think is missing for your information is like more into the nitty-gritty without like giving you too much information, without getting into the way into the weeds. And so what we're doing right now is we're doing all of the set design. We're like figuring out, you know, are our revenues and expenses going to the right place? On a whole level, we know what our numbers are, right? But on an individual fund basis, are things going where they should be? And if they're not, let's make those corrections. And those corrections don't always show in these reports. And so over time, we've looked at like parking revenue. Where do we put our parking revenue? Should it be going to that fund? Where are the expenses associated with that parking revenue? Are they over here? Let's put them together, right? And that doesn't really show on these reports. And so, and I really wouldn't want it to either, because it would be super disparate for you. So what we're getting to is we're getting a hold of all that information and getting to the point where we're going to be able to report things like, is our parking function profitable for parks? Are we making money on this that can be used to beautify parks? Or is it a sustainable, any one of our functions, are they sustainable functions? And if they aren't, are we okay with that? Where are we getting the money from to continue that into the future? So those are the kinds of decisions that I feel like need to be brought to you to decide, do we want to continue with this program, whatever it is? And if we do, how are we going to fund it? So anyway, with all of that said, I have in front of you the August financial reports. And, as I stated, this is kind of an overview of all of parks. Our spending is pretty much on track where we would expect it to be. We're winding down our seasons right now for this active year, which is different than our fiscal year because our fiscal year started in July, which is like mid-season for us. So we see some more significant spending in the fall, and then over the winter time, things kind of slow down and then they pick back up in the spring. So it's really not a straight 1/12 every single month of our spend amount. Same with our revenue. There's really nothing like super important to note to you. The only note that I made for you on these slides is on page 7, and that's the available spend calculation. And just to kind of expand the slide a little bit, this is meant to show you, we estimate how much revenue we're going to make, we estimate how much we're going to spend in expenses, and then we also want to keep a certain amount of fund balance in reserves, kind of like your savings account for, those emergencies, whatever. And so between the money coming in, the money going out, and the reserves, how does it look compared to our fund balance and what our available spend is when we calculate all of those numbers together? And we should have a positive available spend number, right? We should show that we've got money left to start. And so what I want to draw your attention to is Fund 326 shows a negative number in that spot right now, which initially you go, oh my gosh, what's going on there? But that is generated from
Which table are we looking at?
slide 7, page 7 at the bottom.
39.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
thank you.
Yeah.
31.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
39, what's the title?
Park board funds remaining available spend.
Oh, that's not page 6.
Page 44.
Okay. Now we're 41?
44.
44. I was on 41. Okay.
30. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Park board available spend calculation.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. So the second line on that table is Fund 326, which is park donations and special activity. And that is essentially where all of our revenue goes that we get from a variety of sources, from shelter rentals, from our Explore Nature programs, from parking. Anyway, lots of funds go into that fund. Lots of money that comes in goes into that fund. It's really an unrestricted, self-generated revenue fund. And a negative number there would indicate that we've way overspent. We don't have enough money coming in. And that's not true. So to explain that a little bit, we have, as you know, we have, what are they called? I guess people who manage a couple of our facilities, and they rent those out and manage them, and then they pay us a portion of it. And one of the arrangements, one of the contracts is such that the money that they receive goes into our bank account, and then we pay them their percentage. And long story short, there was a period of time where they weren't getting paid. And it wasn't a huge deal to them because they have another arrangement with us in a separate place where it was kind of a, how do I explain it?
We both pay each other late.
We both pay each other late. That's a really good way to put it. We both pay each other late. So in this particular case, Anderson Pavilion is the one where we pay them after they deposit the money into our account. And it had been several years since we had paid them. But it was a small amount compared to what they pay us late on the other one. So not excusing it, should never happen. But we finally got that reconciled, and we paid that out at the beginning in July. And so that was for prior year numbers, which the money was sitting in our fund balance. So it affects this report, but it's not a negative thing on the overall for this year.
Is this complex procedure with these folks? Is it all contractual? Is that why
It's all contractual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every contract has a bunch of different stipulations. And so just digging into those things and like figuring out, how much of this revenue that they brought in, there's different percentages for different things that they do. So
Sticky wicket.
yeah. So that's all that set design stuff I'm talking about. Like, how do I report that to you? It's just, there's just a lot going on all the time.
Yeah.
And so trying to get that cleaned up and straightened up so that when you get these reports, they make sense, right?
Well, one of the most important piece to note there is that at the bottom in the lower right-hand corner, the available spend dollars, and this is projecting to the end of the year, is still $4 million to the good. We still have a $4 million, despite each one of them being a little different, we still have $4 million to the good at the end of the year. And so,
Correct.
and that's the piece that we're trying to make sure that, okay, well, we need to get all of that lined up so that instead of just saying one aggregate, we want it to be kind of, and part of that is the reorganization that we've done with 430. That will have another effect on changing these, where we've moved some of those expenses out of the 430 budget, or what's traditionally called the commissioner fund budget, and we're realigning those into these funds as well. So we're just, but what the really exciting piece is that, I think I mentioned this in the last meeting, we're really dialing in and knowing ourselves and what's happening better and better all the time. And I feel like every time I'm asking questions, I'm getting clearer and clearer answers, and we're developing clearer and clearer paths forward to know those answers and to be able to move those levers much more intricately rather than just big swaths, right? And as we do that, it's also, and I joked about this at the last meeting, like it makes me remember my old red bike days where I was constantly worried about revenue, right? Revenue was the key, like how much can we bring in? How many people ride bikes at parks? A lot of our revenue is just tax revenue. You don't think about it the same way, but we're really starting to understand where are our incoming dollars? How are those coming in? What can those be used to fund? What are they assumed? And how can we appropriately push those levers to grow the amount of revenue and the amount of funding we have available for the park system? And so all of that is this amazing work that Head has done and her team's done to streamline that, to know ourselves better, to hold our partners more accountable, so that neither we are paying anybody late, but we're also not getting paid late. And we're on top of that and monitoring that much quicker. So really exciting stuff.
Right. And with that, with an accounting background, I kind of see where, like, this is where I want us to be, right? And so my team and I have been really working on, this is the end goal. Let's make it happen. And we have these great ideas on how quickly we can make that happen. And then we ask the question outside of parks, and we get told, well, we can probably do that by FY27, or maybe we need to look at that for the next biennium. And then, it's that soul crushing, but why? We can do this now. But again, steering the ship and changing directions takes a bit of time. So appreciate your patience as we work through this. We're trying to get as many things corrected and cleaned up and more visibility into them as possible, as quickly as possible. One of the things that we have been successful at is Jenny, Jason, and my team and I have met and talked quite a bit about our bureaus, which is where we can really look at like, how much do we spend at Waterfront? How much do we spend here? What's our revenue from this particular group or function? And we had, over 100 different bureaus that have been established over the years of parks being in existence. And all of them were attempts at capturing that information. And then at some point we changed our mind and decided not to use those bureaus, but we never inactivated them. And so when you don't inactivate something, you make it really easy to accidentally fat finger something and put it into that bureau without it needing to be there. And it just messes up all of your reporting. So we've taken a look at that list and kind of honed it down to what bureaus we really want to work on. Now we're in the process of deactivating those groups. So that's a huge step forward. Another one is we're talking with city finance about potentially consolidating some of our funds that, at one point in time when they were established, they made sense to have separate funds for those things. But now the activities are pretty close to the same. And so it doesn't make sense to have that separation. It just adds complexity that we don't need. And so with that, the other thing that I want to bring to your attention is the last few pages, and I don't know what slide number it is in yours. I'm going to guess it's 30 fund descriptions. Yeah.
46.
46. Okay. So there's 4 pages of fund descriptions that used to be shown to you in one table that went over 2 pages. I revamped that for you and gave it a little bit more information that tells you like, what are our funds? The italicized verbiage is the fund purpose that is held by the city finance right now. So you know exactly what that fund is intended to be for. And then whether it's an appropriated fund or unappropriated, restricted or unrestricted, and then generally speaking, what revenue goes into those funds. So that you can kind of track like where does the money come from that we spend expenses out of. And so anyway, hopefully that's interesting to you and you can reference back to that as we're talking about fund numbers like 326. What does that mean, right? You have that information for you here. Other than that, it's always busy in finance. There is no season, as much as I'd like to say there is. We've been working on all kinds of things. Again, we're now completing the first quarter of the fiscal year. So hopefully we've done all the beginning of the fiscal year stuff and we're just kind of trucking along on normal finance work. But in addition to looking at the bureaus, we're also looking at when someone gets hired in parks, we have to identify what's called a funding strip, which is where they're going to get paid out of. Where does their payroll come from? And when, a person gets hired into a position and then years later we reorganize that function, they could get moved to another place. And if we didn't correct that funding, they're still sitting over this fund. So we've spent some time looking at what's called the table of organization that Derek talks to you about, the TO, looking at that and making sure that people are in the right spots where they should be, and not really so much people, but their positions are where they should be. So we've done the first run at that. We haven't made any changes yet, but we've identified where there might be changes that should be made. Revenue wise, just continuing to look at, where do we get revenue from? Are we charging appropriately? I think in previous board meetings, we've talked about like Explore Nature, for example, the summer camps. Our summer camps are the best bargain around, and which is great because it's the best bargain. And so it attracts a crowd. But, that also means that, when we look at that best bargain, does it pencil out? And if it doesn't, is that okay? Maybe it is. If it's not okay, what do we need to do to fix that? Right. On the capital side, we did just have our first meeting with city budget to look at our list of projects. And for every year we go through this process called the capital sunset, where they ask us to look at all of our projects and identify any, are we planning to move any of these projects forward this year? And then they're particularly interested in ones that are 5 years or older. Within that group, any that are bond funded, because we can run into arbitrage issues. If we've borrowed money, when the city issues bonds, they borrow money or they sell those bonds with an interest rate attached to them, right? And so investors who buy those bonds are expecting whatever that interest rate is. And in up markets, if we aren't using those funds, we could be generating more interest than what the investor is committed to, right? And that's arbitrage. We're not supposed to make money on investment money that was given to us. So the way that we manage that is you try to not get rid of, but use those bond funds within that 5-year period. Anything beyond that, then they really start looking at, is this really being used for its intended purpose? So anyway, long way of saying that we're working through the capital sunset process right now, which then feeds into the capital budget for next year, which we just got instructions on Wednesday evening, I believe, on the first round of that. So anyway, again, always something going on. On the IT side, switching to that, the Windows 11 transition is going well. We are now about 76% complete. At the last board meeting, we were 44% complete. So we've made some progress. By the grace of the ETS gods, we were granted 77 laptops that they purchased for us under life cycle replacement under their money. So we really got lucky there and have a number of laptops that we're able to change out that wouldn't be Windows 11 compliant or would take some effort to get them Windows 11 compliant. And we can replace them without having to spend parks money. So that's a big one for us.
Including this computer right here.
Yeah.
Kate was nervous. She was like, this is the first time I've used this computer. Everything works and is signed on. Rocky's got a new one too.
Yeah, all right. Everyone's got.
So very, very good stuff.
And so with that, I do want to give a lot of credit to our IT team. We have 2 people who are doing all of this work. And they're not only doing this Windows 11 upgrade, but anything else that's IT related in parts, from I can't get something to print to our network is down. And so they've been running all over everywhere. And with the Windows 11 upgrade, so ETS is the city's IT group, and they are responsible for managing all of the cybersecurity stuff and all of the, how do the apps relate with each other, and do they speak to our network, and what kind of administrative rights do we need to grant everybody? And so when they set that up, they create what's called an image, and every one of our laptops has to be imaged a certain way. So when we get a new laptop or we're upgrading to Windows 11, there's a new image that needs to be uploaded. And basically, Kate's laptop, when she got a new one, she had to wipe everything off of like her C drive that she wanted to save, all of her passwords, everything like that, so that basically it can be like wiped and started over. And in that, there's always issues when you roll out something new. And so they rolled out the very first image, I think, back in like May. And by June, we were on like image number 4 or 5, version number 4 or 5. And so any that we had imaged prior, we had to re-image with a new image. And so it's kind of been this rolling, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? And so the fact that Dom and Matt have just kept this project moving forward and gotten us to the point where we are today is really amazing. And so I do want to definitely give them credit for that, because they've done a great job with that. In addition to that, some of the other things that we're looking into is trying to figure out how we can expand the Wi-Fi capabilities, both for the public within parks, but also for just our parks personnel work at locations. And that has a lot of coordination as well. It's not a quick project. It's probably going to be a multi-year thing, but we are definitely improving that accessibility for everybody. Other things in development are I'll go ahead and tell you this because I'm excited about it, but the Epic Crone, there's a sign along the road that you may not even realize is a digital sign because it's never lit up, okay? And it hasn't been lit for several years. And in this last winter, Dom went up there and worked with it a little bit, and he was able to get it lit up, and it was right around show change between the holiday show and the spring show, and had some really beautiful graphics. And if you were there, you know, at dusk or at dawn, it was just like lit up the whole street. It was really great. However, there's an issue with that sign, and it kept shorting out, and the only way to reset it was to flip the breaker, which is not ideal. So Dom and Matt have worked with some vendors to come out and take a look at that sign, and they've determined that it's something internal to the computer that's resident in that sign that sends those graphics out. And so, and of course, that company is now defunct, and that computer system's no longer built. And so the only way to fix that would be to go on eBay and try and find a used one and pull components, right? Which is not what we want to do. So Matt has worked with some vendors to get an estimated cost to just replace that LED sign. And of course, you know, that sign was put in 15 years ago. Technology has increased quite a bit. The pixelation is a lot better now. The color is a lot better. So he is working with vendors to get that sign back up and running. And I'm hoping to have it up and running by our holiday show so that we can have some great visibility for that. So anyway, stay tuned on that. That's really all I have for you. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
We're just so glad you like your job.
Yeah, yeah. I can peel it.
Oh, great.
And that's all.
That it?
Okay. Yes.
It's not a question, so I've hijacked part of your time, but I want to also hijack your metaphor. If you talk about the building the sets, I think the sets are built, the show's gonna be fantastic, and the dress rehearsals are going well. So thank you
awesome.
for all of the, I was particularly struck on the appendix, and I know the appendix is not the headline typically, but how useful this would have been, I think it was 4 years ago, when I sat down at a stint as interim director and was trying to figure out how in God's name money flowed anywhere. That is really, really useful. And this is the first time we've seen this format, correct? The remaining available spend, et cetera.
It's actually always been there.
Is it? Then shame on me, but I find this very useful and orienting into, I think with fund accounting and public sector accounting, people who don't have a ton of exposure to that, myself included, find it very daunting to figure out, do we have money left? And this answers that question quite ably. So thank you for that. I think that's really useful.
Awesome.
And also the description of the funds, I think is very, very helpful.
Oh, great.
And so I particularly appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the feedback because it lets me know what you like to see, and, you know, I can make tweaks to match that.
I like analogies too, so.
It was all day long. All right, thank you.
All right, next up is our HR report from a rare appearance from Derek.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Nice to see your face.
No,
You always get his report, but never his face.
I hope I don't look old.
Friday meetings.
That's all I feel like I should look older. Last meeting, I think Jason read out my appointments. He had about 10. So I've been busy, and we have 2 that's going to be appointed in October on the 2nd and the 13th. So we are hiring a lot. This is the first time we only have 10 vacancies. I think the lowest we got before was like 100. So we're doing really good. The HR team has been coming together and supporting us with backfilling these positions that's been vacant for a while now. Currently, the arborist 2 is posted, the division manager is posted for planning and design. We are hiring for an administrative technician that will be posted. That is transfer. That position will be at Crum Conservatory. It's going to help with some of the ordering and administrative work. They have a lot going on over there, so they'll have 2 administrative technicians at that point. 2 arborist 2s. So a big chunk of the appointments that we did get through last month are in natural resources. So we have a huge tree team that's coming together, and we're hoping to finish up with these last 2 arborist 2s. And they've been working on this for like 3 years to get this done. So I'm really excited that some of this work is finally coming to fruition. Maintenance crew leader. We are interviewing for a maintenance crew leader in the facilities team right now. And they will be over, I believe, some of the playground work. Mhm. Also, supervising engineer is kind of on hold until we hire a division manager. Then that person will help with onboarding a supervising engineer for the planning and design team. Service area coordinator. We're going to hire a service area coordinator in Explore Nature sometime in the future. We're just trying to close up on some of these appointments that we're doing. So that's on hold right now. HVAC specialist. We actually will have to reopen that position. We're just not getting the candidates that we need. I've already met with the communications team. They're going to help me with marketing and hopefully have some more success. But I always say their contribution is huge. They've been my success on. I always make sure I shout them out. Truck driver, we have 2 truck driver vacancies, one in the East District, one in the West District. There is a list that we're looking at right now to pull from. If we don't get what we need from that, we may eventually end up posting again. So that'll be a great promotional opportunity for current Parks employees. And right now as the summer ends, we're focusing more on the employees, making sure they have their safety training, which there is a lot that has to happen during the off season before next summer. We're creating our videos to help with recruitment. We're focusing on employee engagement. We have a staff social next Tuesday, where Jenny and Jason will come and employees can ask some questions. We're still doing that. We have our all staff that's coming up at the end of October. And also some of the work that we've been doing with the impact group has been awesome, because I feel like they're like the second voice of things that I've wanted to do, but they say it better, and they're able to do the work that we don't have the capacity to do with the survey and everything together to hopefully have some outcomes that will continue to make Parks one of the best places to work in the city. I truly believe it is. That's pretty much it. Is there anything you have for me?
Talk about planning and design. What's going on?
So it's currently posted. We have a large number of applicants. Jason and I have been working to review and interview, and we're just, making sure that we put a lot of time in our interview process to review those applicants.
I've met with maybe 9 or 10 individuals for coffee. I've joked that it's like speed dating. I basically want to kind of pre-screen folks to see kind of who I want to really, really fully vet. This is coming off of Hedda's report, where I think you guys see getting the right person in a position can really be valuable for a long time. And I think this is one that's just crucially important. Just last weekend, we dedicated the Steve Schuckman Library at Houck Botanic Gardens, which I'm incredibly excited about. It was a nice little small ceremony with some of his friends and family. But Steve worked with us for 32 years, putting an incredible imprint on parks, kind of being the steward of all these great lands. Such an important job. Somebody I just immensely look up to as a role model when I was just a red bike. And I never thought there was any chance I could ever be lucky enough to work for parks. To have that kind of impact on the city and the community is just amazing. And so to me, this is just such an important hire. I want to bring in somebody that just feels like a true partner, kind of in the way. Hedda's just come in and just rolled up her sleeves and been so great. I want somebody that in a year and a half, you're saying, I'm glad you like your job. And so we've been going slow about it, right? And I'm not in a rush to find the right person. Got about at least 3 or 4 more kind of coffee interviews, and then we're going to start to think about what does the second round look like. So
I just don't want the lack of that person to kill you.
Well,
you're looking a little tired.
Thank you. That's mostly just this Reds playoff run, I gotta say. This is Castellini.
It's all our.
I mean, there's a lot going on in the planning design. I think we're moving forward on a lot of stuff, and so that team over there is just doing a great job of just all professionals, all knocking their work out. I wish I could give them even more attention, but I'm trying to be as responsive as I can to them, and they're just really crushing it. And we're getting a lot of cool stuff done. So, but at the same time, and I hope I've supported this, but I'm willing to slow things down a little bit in order to get the right person in here. What I don't want to do is rush towards getting somebody in, but instead find, you always think about what's in the next 6 months, what's in the next year. But I always try to make sure we're thinking about what's in the next generation and how are we setting folks up for success, whether it's me or others, how are we doing that? So I want to get the right person in. So, but met some really awesome people. As every time I go through an interview process, I just want to hire everybody. But want to make sure to get the right person. Exciting stuff.
And to be honest, we're honestly using that approach with everything. Every position, we're kind of slowing down, reviewing the job description, making sure it accurately reflects the work they're doing, the salary makes sense. So now that we've done all the busy work and backfilled all those long-standing positions that haven't been filled, now we can take the time and fill them better, go about the process a little bit better. So
I should note that 10 vacant positions is maybe the lowest number that's ever been on a report from HR in my 3 years here. So.
One, just a note on the HVAC. We have a small HVAC operation in my other world, and it is incredibly difficult to hire in that space. So it's cold comfort, but just admiring the problem with you. It is a very undersupplied labor market in that space. And I'm not sure if this is the right spot to do it. And if I thought ahead, I would have seen if he could be here, but I am aware that Andy Sherman is concluding his lengthy service at Parks, and I just want to give him a shout out to happy in his next adventures and appreciate all of his impact and contributions to the system over quite some time. So in absentia, I'll call out Andy with
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I'm sure his ears are itching, right?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Gary. All right, looks like we have some grant acceptances.
Thanks. So we've got a couple of grant acceptances. First up is the Parks Foundation. The Parks Foundation has several endowments that give us a guaranteed spend off every year, similar to the Parks endowment funds. And they support us on a bunch of different ways. Those annual distributions used to go directly into, they were deposited into the PNC account and then transferred over to our Parks funds, which Hedda just talked about. But we're moving those this year, so we're coming up with kind of the new process. And so we got 2 coming in, and they will be deposited into the SMAIL fund, which is 329, and then into our 326, which is our kind of special activities fund, as Hedda talked about, which will then again realign some of those expenses as well. But this is where you can see when we talked about funds available, this is new revenue that wasn't previously accounted in that, but will now going forward be accounted into that, which will start to align that. So just another great way that the foundation helps us out. And so it's $112,000 and 233 from the Parks Foundation to support all kinds of activities throughout the parks.
So moved.
Seconded with gratitude.
All right,
Yes.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Yep. Any opposed?
And all of your
Yes,
colleagues.
thank you.
Back up the hill.
Next up is the Board of Visitors. The Board of Visitors also controls some endowments. They have about $10 million in endowments, which each year spends off a bit of funding for us to use through the park system. This year, funding available was $256,111.52. And so that also will go into, previously it had gone into 430, but since they are specifically for Sawyer Point, they will go into that should say Fund 318, which is the Sawyer Point Fund, not 329, which is the SMAIL Fund. But again, that's additionally revenue that used to be into 430 and then now will be part of that. So you'll see that change going over as Hedda rolls out the play. That will be one of the changes that you see. So $256,117.52 from the Board of Visitors to support Bicentennial Commons at Sawyer Point and the P&G Pavilion.
Do I have a motion?
So
Second, and with gratitude.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right.
And I believe I might be missing a page. We have a page for grant acceptances for, might just have to go off the action item on page 2. And we will make sure, so if you go back to page 2, feels like in compiling the packet, we might have lost a report. But page 2, in the middle, we have 2 grants that we want to apply for. So the process is that, correct. So the process is that, according to our park kind of governing rules. We're allowed to apply for any grant that is for an operation we already do. So if it's to continue to do explore nature, we can apply for that, and then you will eventually vote to accept it. However, some grants require us to have the board approve the application of them, right? And then if it's for anything that is different than what we normally do, we always bring that to you first, right? So if we were to, similar to when we got into biochar, that's not part of our operation. So there are ongoing commitments to that. If we're going to expand the things we do, then we would bring that to you every time before we apply for it. But we've got two grant acceptances. One is just a grant from the foundation. This is for the funding for the Alt Park fireworks. As you know, we've changed the way we do that, where instead of the community just paying us to do that like we do mini events, now the foundation raises the funds and then and we put on the event. And so then they pay us for our labor and time and all the expenses we take on. They pay for many of the expenses directly. And so this is $9,458.75 out of the funds that the community raised to do the Alt Park fireworks. This reimburses us for that staff time. And then the second one, we can do them on two separate votes. The second one is $500,000 from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources grant to support and there's much more detail in the memo on it, which we will make sure is in the packet and you guys get to see. In fact, it might have even come in one of the draft packets that you guys got earlier. But this is the grant that we applied for last year. We applied for it in November, so we're getting it out of the way early because we know we're going to go for it again. Last year, we heard that we were 11th out of 50 applications and they awarded 9. So we're hopeful that when we reapply, of course, there will be new applications, but we're hopeful we'll be very competitive and this can win this year.
So we haven't gotten it yet.
Correct. Last year, we did not get it. And so we're reapplying. Last year, we applied in November and we found out in March that we did not get it, but we were very competitive. So we're reapplying this year with hopes that we'll be, we'll do really well. We got $2 million in the city budget towards Owl's Nest. Once again, favorite topic or our favorite partner to bring up, but the Parks Foundation is hard at work to raise an additional $2 million towards this project. In fact, all of the proceeds of the Hats Off Luncheon next Friday will go to support this project. And so we're steaming ahead towards having our $4.5 million goal for this project. And this application would help fill part of that, 1/9 of that.
All right, so first motion.
For the Alt Park fireworks.
Alt Park fireworks.
So moved.
In a second,
Second,
all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right, and next is for the Owl's Nest improvements.
Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah.
Yes, so we're voting to apply.
Okay.
It's required to have it's required to show that the board that is in charge of it has voted to apply for this one. And if we get this 1 point, that's how you get from 11 to 10.
Okay, so moved.
Second. Any opposed? Or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we have to do this again.
Excellent.
That 500,000 really will.
Yes, big time.
Really would.
Boy, would it.
All right. So I will give Kate a second to pull up
For that.
slides that Rocket's team has put together for us. All right. Relief, one of our favorite programs every year is a partnership with, let me say it again, the Parks Foundation, Mad Tree Brewing, and Dynegy Energy, to offer relief, give away 1,000 trees. 37 years that we've been doing this program, 26,000 trees. Just unbelievable work to improve our urban canopy. These are trees that go onto people's private property. So we have lots of ways that we put trees on public property, this is on private property, which is a majority of the property in the community. So to get trees onto that property is so important. The priority registration for low-income neighborhoods, low canopy neighborhoods was opened on September 13th. General registration is now open. We got 8 varieties this year, including redbuds, elderberries, pawpaws, greenspire lindens, and more. And you can see some of the beautiful trees here. And then in October, we'll have the pickup at Mad Tree, which is always a really fun event. So thank you to all the partners. Trail Fest. Trail Fest was a blast. Just always a fun event in Mount Airy. Lots of folks, there's hikes, music, educational presentations and discussions. I got to speak to the team a little bit, talk to them about the skills course, and along with all the other projects we're doing up there, including fixing the treehouse, working the Doris Day Dog Park, the adventure playground that's coming. And I think mentioned some of the stormwater improvements we're doing, which won't necessarily, isn't something you can play on, but something that makes the experience better. On the right, you can see Crystal Courtney was part of a really cool panel discussion about conservation, along with Sydney Barnes, who is the leader of Mount Airy West, and Roadrunners, the guy that runs that, was part of that as well. Just a really cool presentation about all the work that's going on. So just an awesome event. I want to thank all the people that participated and helped out, including Mount Airy Forest Advisory Committee, Math Pack, as well as the Cincinnati Parks Foundation, Cincinnati Hikes. Of course, our events team just did a great job, and our West operations team also did a great job of just keeping it clean and being there and kind of directing the parking and making sure everything went really smoothly. Great event. Controlled bow hunting season kicks off this Saturday, September 27th. Through our Division of Natural Resources, we've successfully run a safe deer management program since 2007. We're grateful to all of our volunteers that help us with this each fall and winter to help control the deer population. Deer management is something that happens throughout the state. Unfortunately, with no kind of natural predators, deer can have a really negative effect on trees. And so this is just a really important thing we do in order to make sure that we kind of keep our forests at the right balance to make sure everything, we continue to have just great forests. Events. All right, so all kinds of stuff happening. This is just like really when events take off. Paradise of the Point is this Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday. Right, today's the 26th, Friday and Saturday at Sawyer Point. Great music, great beer, great food trucks, all kinds of really cool and interesting vendors with different kinds of things that you can't buy at just a normal thing. This is put on by an outside group at Sawyer Point, but it's a really cool, you can see all the lineup of bands there. Gets a great crowd, and it's a really fun event for us, and it's free and open to the public. Cinema at Stanberry Park. So Jurassic World Rebirth will be tonight at the Kyle Plush Pavilion. It's a series. It's a great partnership with the Mount Washington Advisory Council, the City of Cincinnati, the Mount Washington Park Advisory Council. The City of Cincinnati and Mount Washington Community Council. Really fun time to come out and watch a movie in a park. Should be great weather tonight. Moonlight Dance at Mount Echo Pavilion, or Mount Echo Park, will be Saturday, October 4th. This is a throwback event featuring a dance band, ballroom dancing. It's free and will feature live music from Peter Wagner Band, food, drinks, raffles, and more. Really fun. As you look through the history of parks, you often hear about dances being something that parks were used for back before we had dating apps. Jam Fest at the Nest, which is a great name that I butchered. Jam Fest at the Nest in Owl's Nest Park is October 4th. It's geared towards family fun with children's activities, a puppet show, the Cincinnati Circus, and a performance from members of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. Ez Fest, always a great event, Saturday, October 11th in Ezra Charles Park. The Positive Vibes Band is playing there, and there will be children's games, face painters, and also the Cincinnati Circus again, and a bounce house. You can't beat a bounce house. On October 11th, we've got Fall Fest in Burnett Woods. Pumpkin carving that includes 150 pumpkins and all the decorations needed to make some great jack-o'-lanterns. So another just great event. And then in the lower left-hand corner, of course, we've got River Roots coming up. It's finally here. We've been talking about it for several years. October 8th through 12th, this event kicks off our country's, America's 250th birthday celebration on both sides of the river. It's going to be all throughout Yateman's Cove and all over in Newport. Newport will have bourbon tasting experiences. Yateman's Cove will have beer tasting experiences. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be live music, free live music, riverboat cruises, parades, races, historical presentations, an artisan market, a whole lot more. Folks have been working on this for a long time. Longtime parks supporters, Rick Greiwe and Kelly Kolar, who have been with us through the foundation and through the Board of Visitors for years, helped create Sawyer Point in the first place. I've been working to bring this off along with a host of other volunteers and activities. It's going to be a really great event. That's going to be really exciting, and we're glad it's coming. And then I mentioned it before, but the half off luncheon is next Friday, October 3rd. Cincinnati's biggest, but yet most exclusive and fun party. 1,000 people gather. That's the parks team from last year down at Smale. for just a really great kind of 2 or 3 hour party that everybody just has a blast at and is a lot of fun, raises lots of money to help the Cincinnati Parks Foundation. This year, going to help the Cincinnati Parks by raising money for Owl's Nest Park. So just really great stuff. I got to do some shopping. I had a baseball cap there, but I can do better. So we're going to see about getting me a fancy hat for this year's event. And last but not least is this afternoon is the CMO Olympics. City manager's office is often shortened to CMO. Well, this is the CMO Olympics, and that is happening at Sawyer Point. This is year 2 of the CMO Olympics. And last year, you will not be surprised to hear that the Parks Department won the CMO Olympics. This is a competition amongst all 20 to 30 city departments. There are mostly kind of bounce house type games and activities, which we cleaned up in last year. So we're going to be back to defend our title. And we got some special t-shirts. We got a flag with a Parks chant on it. We grow, we something, we're here to steal the show. So plant, we grow, we're here to steal the show. We plant, we grow, we're here to steal the show. And we got some t-shirts that I'm going to be wearing. Don't tell anybody down there because it's a surprise, but I'm going to be wearing a blow up squirrel holding an acorn that's like waist high. Looks like I'm riding him to enter holding the flag. So it's going to be quite a lively event. City manager Cheryl Long just is really laser focused on culture and making sure that employees are having fun and we as a city organization have fun. This is just a great event that brings together all the departments to compete and have fun. There'll be some food and stuff. And I've been selected to be part of the CMO zone, which is an ESPN style commentating that will happen on the events. So I do not know what that will fully involve, but I will be up on stage helping to get folks fired up and cheer folks on as they have just a really great opportunity down there.
Tug of war? What goes on?
There was a tug of war last year. There's like a big blow up kind of pop a shot thing. There was a thing where you had to like get in a hamster ball and kind of roll across an obstacle course. There was a regular obstacle course. There was all kinds of fun stuff. And so
Did they have a dunking booth where you could dunk the mayor? That would have been fun.
I don't think there's a dunking booth. We'll see. You never know. So lots of fun stuff happening. We're really excited to host it and be a great partner for everybody down at Sawyer Point. So good times.
Can you win a goldfish?
Oh, I remember the carnivals.
I don't think there are any goldfish, but you never know.
Well,
So that is what I got for you.
okay, that's open for discussion, commissioners.
Never hold my comments. I blow them out all the way down. Thank you to everybody for lots of work.
Very much so. All right. Next regular meeting will be October 16th. 9 a.m. I know, right? So I have a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
In a
Let's do it.
second. All right.
Great.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.